My sister's husband told me that he fantasizes about me, and now my sister hates me. For context, I'm F18, and my sister went out of town for her best friend's wedding. She had dropped her kids off at my mom's house. Usually she stays home with them while her husband works, but since she was going out, there was nobody to watch them, and she doesn't like babysitters or nannies. Usually they would be here from 1 to 6 p.m., and then her husband would then come and get them. I never had any issues with her husband, and we all got along really well. I had known him since I was a freshman, and I'm currently a senior now. There were times where he would make weird comments about my sister's appearance, comparing her to me. He would ask her if we were really related because we looked nothing alike. And there were times where his friends would say things like, "You might have picked the wrong one," and then they would all start laughing. Even my sister would be laughing, but I always found it weird. Despite that, I just kept my distance from him and would only really see him when I went to my sister's house or at family get-togethers. But one day he came to pick up the kids. It was just me. The younger one didn't want to leave. He kept saying he wanted to stay, and then the other two kept protesting. They were just being stubborn. Eventually, I got them to go upstairs and get their things. At this point, it was just me and him alone in the kitchen. He suddenly started talking, and he said, "You know, I've been having weird dreams." And I asked him what kind of dreams, not thinking anything of it. And I kid you not, this dude just looked at me and said, "Of you, I've noticed I daydream about you sometimes." I didn't even know what to say, and I just stared at him because what exactly am I supposed to say to that? And then he continued telling me that he can't even get off with my sister without thinking about me. So I'm here confused as to why he was telling me this. I felt so uncomfortable, and he was just laughing. I think he was waiting for me to say something, but I just laughed and went to go get the kids. I avoided him until my sister got back. I would have my mom take the kids outside to him because I just couldn't. I felt so uncomfortable and weird. When my sister got back, I told her about it, and at first she didn't say anything, but then she started getting mad at me. "Well, what did you do? What were you wearing?" She was accusing me of seducing her husband, saying he would never say something like that unless provoked. I started getting mad too because, "Are you okay? I just told you your husband just told me he fantasizes about me and you're getting upset at me." She's refusing to talk to me. She won't even answer my texts or my calls. She refuses to come around the house, and my mom's starting to ask questions. At this point, I don't even know what to do. I love my sister, and I'd never do anything to hurt her. I swear I never tried to seduce him. I'm trying to understand her perspective, but I can't.
I got an ex-friend expelled from university 15 years ago. Now he's back with vengeance. It was 2008, the golden age of Facebook and Skype. I was an international student at a Canadian university, new to the country and desperate to make friends. In my first semester, I made a couple of friends. Sweet pal Al, his real name starts with an A, another friend. Let's call him Brat because he is one. We were all new international students and hung out together most of the time. Al made more friends through volunteering and introduced us to a girl, Cindy. Her name started with a C. We were very active on Facebook back then. One day while I was in the library, I got a random message from a girl. Let's call her Viv. Her name begins with V. It was full of abusive language telling me to stay away from her man. Mind you, I was single, so this was completely out of the blue. My face went pale, and Al, noticing my tension, walked over to me. I asked him if he knew Viv. He didn't. Turns out Viv's boyfriend was Brat. Judging by our Facebook photos, Viv assumed that Brat and I were dating, as if. At that time, we didn't know he was also secretly dating Cindy. Plot twist. Viv was a Canadian citizen, meaning Brat and Viv had been in a long-distance relationship long before Brat came to Canada. Brat's family liked Viv's family, so Brat's father decided to fund his international studies. We confronted Brat about Viv, but because Cindy was there, he lied and denied everything. He painted Viv as a family friend who visited once and became obsessed with him, turning into a crazy Facebook stalker. We believed Brat for a while because, after all, he was our friend, and Viv had harassed me, a stranger, on Facebook. Later, when we started ignoring Viv, I blocked her on Facebook. She messaged Al with screenshots of her conversations with Brat, where he was professing his undying love and commitment to her. Their romantic chats and pictures made our jaws drop. Somehow, Cindy found out about Brat's relationship with Viv, and instead of being mad at her two-timing boyfriend, she messaged Viv, telling her that Brat didn't love her anymore and to butt out, not in the nicest words. I saw the message later and lost all respect for Cindy. Way to enable a cheater. This, rightfully, enraged Viv, and she started harassing all of Brat's friends, especially Al. She kept fishing for information but couldn't get any because we didn't actually know anything. Viv was the one who shared Cindy's vile message, disclosing to us that Brat and Cindy were dating. Even with all the screenshots, Cindy convinced Brat that Al had told Viv about them dating and was giving her all the details because she thought Al had a crush on her, talk about a superiority complex. Brat believed Cindy and made Al's life a living hell. Brat would verbally harass Al all the time and even cornered him once for a physical altercation, but failed when Al's friends showed up unexpectedly. Viv was another piece of work. Once everyone blocked her, she came to our city, trashed Brat's rental residence, tore his clothes, and graffitied all over the walls, leading to Brat getting kicked out. Brat moved in with Cindy and started brainwashing her against Al, me, and everyone else. Not that we were too fond of her at that point. Brat spoke ill about Al to anyone who would listen. Brat once tried to humiliate Al in front of his friends, threatening him to stay away from his girl. By this time, we had had enough of their tantrums and smear campaigns. Al replied, "Which one? Conniving Cindy or vindictive Viv?" Everyone laughed, and Brat left fuming. It was hilarious because their real names did start with those letters, and it rhymed. Then, Brat started a rumor that Al was paying other students to do his assignments. This was easily proven false, as we all did our assignments in group study sessions in the library. By the end of the semester, during finals, I overheard Brat bragging about getting a previous year's final presentation from a senior and copying the whole thing. Ironically, he plagiarized. I tipped our TA, teacher's assistant, about this incident, and they found out Brat's presentation was plagiarized. This opened a can of worms. Long story short, there were disciplinary actions, and Brat was sent back home. Cindy was ostracized and left alone. Now to the present, I recently bumped into Brat in our home country after over 15 years while visiting my family. Seeing him gave me an uneasy feeling. He told me his life went downhill after leaving the university. He got some degree through distance learning, but it didn't get him any good jobs. He had to join his dad's struggling business, which he couldn't keep afloat, so he's basically unemployed. He asked if I was still in touch with Al. This seemed like a trick question. Years ago, I introduced Al to my cousin, and now they are married. So Al isn't just one of my best friends, but also my family now. I believe Brat knew this. Anyone with few clicks on Instagram can figure this out. We hang out and go on trips together all the time. Even after so many years, Brat started bad-mouthing Al, blaming him for his ill fate. Thinking Al was the one who told the TA all those years ago, I felt unsafe, so I didn't correct Brat. Honestly, I still think he got what he deserved, but I feel guilty for letting Al take the fall for my actions. It's been 10 days since that unsettling encounter with Brat, and things have taken an unexpected turn. After the weird exchange, I called Al and told him everything. He was very understanding and instead was worried about my safety. He wasn't bothered by Brat as they live on different continents. But 2 days later, I got a call from Al. Brat had somehow found his contact information and had been sending him angry messages, accusing him of ruining his life. Al was concerned about Brat's mental state and how we should handle the situation. We agreed that staying calm and collected was the best approach. Yesterday morning, I received a message on Instagram from an account I don't recognize. You should have told the truth. Now you both will pay. My stomach dropped as I realized Brat must have somehow found out I was the real snitch, or it was some trickery to find the real snitch. I still don't know how he could have found out after so many years. Very few trusted people knew the truth. I immediately called Al to warn him, and we decided to take action to guarantee my safety. I contacted the police and reported the harassment. Police usually doesn't do anything here to help. They advised me to stay vigilant and document any further interactions with Brat. My house is secured with cameras and a guard. I never travel alone anymore, but still get that eerie feeling that I am being watched when outside. So far, there have been no further incidents, but Al and I are on high alert. We're both trying to move on with our lives, but the fear of what Brat might do next lingers. I am supposed to stay in my home country for another 15 days, but now I feel like cutting my trip short.